This is the second time in 2 weeks that I'm doing an album review from a classic metal band that has re-recorded songs from their past. Last week I recorded my review for the re-recordings of Sepultura's first album and their EP, and now VOIVOD are releasing a compilation of songs from their early period. The twist is that they chose some deep cuts as opposed to the lead singles or more popular songs. So I thought it was a good idea, but anyway, let's talk more about this new album.
Odyssey through cosmic dimensions awaits.
The new album was released in celebration of 40 years of existence in 2023. The name of the album is Morgöth Tales, released on July 21st through Century Media Records. It was recorded and mixed by Francis Perron at RadicArt Studio, mastered by Mayor Applebaum, and produced by VOIVOD the band. They chose songs from what they call their early period, spanning between 1984 and 2003. There is a brand new song, which is the title track of Morgöth Tales. And they started to write this while they were on tour with OPETH. You might also find it interesting that they invited some of their former members to participate, such as Eric Forrest and Jason Newsted. And yes, you heard that right. If you didn't know, Jason Newsted was once in this band. I'll talk more about him later, but it was actually kind of surprising that he makes an appearance. He hasn't really been that active lately. Anyway, let's talk about the new album. The album has 10 songs, starting with Condemned to the Gallows. This one was originally on the Metal Massacre 5 compilation from 1984. This is the first song ever written by the band. There is a funny story about this song. When they decided to re-record it, they couldn't find the lyrics. The original lyrics were not printed on the Metal Massacre compilation, so they tried to listen to the original and decipher the lyrics, but that was not an easy task. They searched online, but they could not find it either. So then, vocalist, his name is Dennis Snake Belanger, he called his sister to check his mother's house to see if she saved a lyric sheet somewhere, and his mom just happened to be very organized. She had this file cabinet with, I guess, all of old things from him, and she happened to have it filed away in a cabinet. So that was how they recovered the original lyrics. The song was kind of different. It kind of reminded me of Black Sabbath with some slow guitar riffs. They sped it up in the first verse section a little. I wouldn't call this a thrash metal song. It was more of a traditional heavy metal song with some punk rock mixed in, but it did have that unique VOIVOD feel to it. The next song is Thrashing Rage from Roar from 1986. I'll be honest with you, I was never a big fan of those early VOIVOD albums. I always liked their progressive period from the late 80s to early 90s. The song is pretty good. It has some elements of thrash metal, and they also play those particular guitar chords that only this band is known for. I really think that's what sets them apart. I like the use of the machine gun driving and tempo changes. They start to show the progressive side here. And then we go to Killing Technology, originally from the album the same name from 1987. This is the album where they started to change their sound. They have a futuristic sci-fi sound. They still play those unique chords, and this song has some melody. I like the use of those robot vocals. I think this is the only band that really does that well. It's a cool song. I like it. The song is kind of long. It's about 6.5 minutes, but they use the time well. It's one of those songs where there's so much going on. It's very dense and complex. So I like this one a lot. Macro Solutions to Mega Problems are originally from Dimension Hatros. So let me say two things. First of all, it's a great song, and second of all, I really like the title, and I think this album, Dimension Hatros, was a turning point for the band. They started to play more of those guitar chords on the high end of the neck and more of those progressive metal compositions. They had more complex ideas. This has a really great guitar solo, and they play it over their unique chord structure. Pre-Ignition was originally on Nothing Face from 1989. This is probably my favorite album by the band. This is where they really became a progressive metal band and solidified their sound. I like that they chose one of the deep cuts. This one has futuristic guitar riffs and complex drum patterns. I like the melodies they use. I also like the use of the bass guitar and how they make it sound like this spaceship. It's almost like it's like taking off. You have to listen to the track to know what I'm talking about, but I really like the sound of that. Fractal, originally on Angel Rat from 1991. This was released as a single. Angel Rat is actually one of my favorite albums by VOIVOD. I would have it like ranked pretty high. They changed the sound to more of an alternative metal sound, and a lot of fans don't like this album. The song has kind of an atmospheric feel. It kind of takes you on this space ride. The vocals are cleaner. The guitar riffs sound like Pink Floyd mixed with some heavy metal. They still have some progressive elements in the song with some time signature changes and weird guitar riffs. The guitar riffs have a lot of technicality to them, even though they're not very heavy. This is more of a thought-provoking song. Fix My Heart from The Outer Limits in 1993. I think this is like one of my favorite albums by the band. Maybe second after Nothing Face. It's one of my favorites from this album, like this particular song, Fix My Heart. The song is a melody, and it's not as complex as some of their other songs from other albums from like the late 80s, but they still have some interesting chord progressions. This also has a proto-metal sound in some of the lead guitars, and this album might be their most accessible. Rise, this was originally on Phobos from 1997, and this one features Eric Forrest. He was a previous member. I always thought that Phobos was an underrated album. They seem to be doing what they're doing, but they're taking it up to a new level and trying new things and doing new ideas. This album also has an accessible sound. The music is not very fast-paced, but the vocals can be different at times. This has this very futuristic sound with lots of time signature changes and heavy guitar riffs. This is a pretty good song, and it's one that's not talked about very often. Rebel Robot, originally on the self-titled VOIVOD from 2003, and this is the song I was talking about with Jason Newsted. He was in the band when this was written, and he came back to play the bass guitar for the song. I think this band released some of their weaker albums during this period in the band, but with that being said, I think that this is a good song. It's not very complex. It has kind of an accessible sound, but in that special VOIVOD kind of way. So I like this one as well, which is Morgöth Tales, the new song, and I guess it can be compared to the sound of their last album. The song starts with some guitar riffs and an odd time signature. They bring some spacey and futuristic sounds. They later speed it up. The song goes back and forth with the atmospheric parts. You get taken on a space ride, as you do with most of their songs. The song has some twists and turns. Overall, this was a good way to end the album. In conclusion, I like this better than I thought I would. It was a fun trip down memory lane, and it was hard to believe this band has been around for, 40 years. Thought the song selection was good. They were supposed to be deep cuts, but I think with this band, most of the songs are kind of equal. In other words, this was never a band that survived off their singles. I would think most fans listen to their albums in full. So I think this works as an album, not really much as a compilation or a greatest hits, if that makes sense, but it probably doesn't. Unless you're a VOIVOD fan, you would know what I'm talking about. But my score is going to be an 8.5 out of 10. Let me know in the comments what you thought. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Please like this video as it helps me with the algorithm. Here's my review of Synchro Anarchy from last year. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.